So for this project, I use Karen Simply Soft Tweeds, and the vest was made in this color, which is the off-white color. And for the cardigan, I used the gray heather. And this yarn is super soft. This is the tweeds, and they have lots of little flecks, little brown flecks on them. And I really liked working with this yarn, and the end product is super soft and nice. We will need crochet hooks, a 6mm and a 5mm crochet hook. We will need some stitch markers, a pair of scissors, and yarn needle. So let's get started. Hook, I am starting with my smaller hook, my 5mm hook. I am going to do a slip knot. And for this size small, we are going to be chaining 11. Now that I have my 11 chains, I am going to work in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, and I am going to do a single crochet. And I am going to repeat that and do single crochet across the remaining chains. You should have 10 stitches on the beginning of our work here, and I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And we are going to be working in a back loop only of our stitch. So if you see here, we have our V's of our stitch, and that usually we work in on the both loops. So this is our front loop and this is our back loop. So when we turn our work, it's going to be the opposite obviously. So we have our V's right here. This is our front loop and our back loop. So we will be inserting our hook in the back loop of the stitch only. So I'm going to insert my hook in the back loop, and I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And we are going to carry on doing single crochet in the back loop only all the way across to the last stitch. And this will create the ribbing for the band, and this is the start of the back. And the cardigan consists of 3 panels, so 1 panel for the back, and there will be 2 front panels. I am going to chain 1 and single crochet in the back loop only for the remaining stitches all the way to the last stitch. And we are going to be repeating this row for this size small for a total of 56 rows. So 56 rows for this size small. I have finished my band. I have done 56 rows, and now I have switched to my 6mm hook, my larger hook, and I am going to be chaining 1. And we are going to be working a row all along the length of our band, and we are going to be working a row of single crochets, and we are going to insert our hook in the very first row, and I am going to place a stitch marker on my very first stitch so I do not lose my stitches, and I am going to place a single crochet in every single row all the way across my band, and at the end you should end up with 56 single crochets. I am finishing my row of single crochet across the band. I am going to chain 1 and turn my work. Like I said, you should have a total of 56 stitches across the band. And we are ready to get started on the back with our pattern. And I am going to be doing a single crochet in the very first stitch and place a stitch marker to mark my very first stitch so I don't lose it. And we are going to be working in the next stitch, and we are going to insert our hook in the next stitch and do a single crochet and a double crochet in the very same stitch. And we are going to skip the next stitch and work in the next one. Single crochet and a double crochet. Skipping one and working in the next one, single crochet and a double crochet. And I am going to repeat this all the way across until we get to the last 2 stitches. And we will be skipping 1 stitch and working a single crochet in the very last stitch. So I am going to continue. Skip one, work in the next one all the way across. And I have my last 2 stitches. I'm going to skip one and I am going to work 1 single crochet in my very last stitch. And I am going to chain one and turn my work. And we are basically going to be repeating this row and inserting my hook in the very first stitch and doing a single crochet. I'm going to replace my stitch marker, and in the very next stitch I am going to be doing a single crochet and double crochet in the very same stitch. I'm going to skip one and work in the next one. So we are going to be repeating this 2-row repeat for a total of 38 rows for this size. And once we are done with our 38 rows total, we will be fastening off and we will get started on the 2 front panels. So I have finished my back and I have fastened off, and we are now getting ready to get started on the front panels, and I've started one right here, and the front panel will be exactly half of the back panel. And I have started once again with the bend, and the process is exactly the same as the back. And with my smaller hook I have chained 11, and I have done 28 rows of single crochet in the back loop, and then I have turned my work lengthwise, and I just finished doing with my larger hook a row of single crochet. And for this size I have a total of 28. So we have 56 for the back and we have 28 for the front panel. So we have 28 rows for the bend, and I have turned around the 28 single crochet, so it's basically 1 single crochet per row. And I am going to chain one on my work and turn my work, and I am going to insert my hook in very first stitch and do a single crochet, and I am going to be repeating exactly the same way as I worked my back by doing a single crochet and double crochet in my very next stitch and skipping the next one. So single crochet, double crochet, I'm going to skip the next one and repeat, and we are going to be doing the exact same amount of rows as our back, which is 38 rows. And once we are done with this panel, then you can get started on the second panel, and I will meet you back here to get started on our sleeves. I have finished my 3 panels, and now we are ready to get started on seaming the shoulders. I've already done one right here before we get started on our sleeves, and I have placed the back panel face down with the wrong side facing up, and I've placed the 2 front panels with their right side facing up, and I have counted from the corner of my shoulder. I've counted 17 stitches from the corner to here towards the neck opening, and I have placed a stitch marker on both sides. And if you take a tape measure the neck opening should measure 8 inches for this size. And to figure out your right side also, is I looked at the side where it starts with 2 rows. If you look at the wrong side, it's only 1 row here, so I much prefer having my 2 rows starting for my right side. And also another way to figure out is that the starting of your the starting yarn of your cuff, not your cuff but your band, will be on the left side. So that's another way of figuring it out. And I have stitched here my shoulder with the mattress stitch, and I started from the armhole all the way up to my stitch marker. And in order to do that, we are going to unfold the sweater, and we are going to place the back panel against the front panel, and we have our right side facing up, and we are going to use yarn and needle, and from the corner of our shoulder I'm going to remove my stitch markers. I am going to go ahead and thread my yarn through the corner here, and I'm going to do it a couple of times so it's nice and secure, and I'm going to go onto the other side, and I am going to match my stitches. So we have 17 stitches on one side, 17 stitches on the other side, so that's quite easy just to follow. And you will see that these the Suzette Stitch here, you can see these columns, and just match them so it's nice and even on both sides. And to do the mattress stitch, we are going to be inserting a hook from one side, and I am going to find a gap between my fabric, and I'm going to pull through, and now I'm going to go onto the other side, and I am going to do the same thing. Find a gap, don't go through the yarn, find a gap between the stitches, and I'm going to go back onto the other side, and we are going to go all the way to the stitch marker in a zigzag manner. So I'm going to repeat this. I am going to go through my fabric and find gaps, and I'm going to go back onto the other side, and when I have reached a little bit, I will be pulling on my yarn, and the yarn will disappear. So you pull, just to begin with you have to pull a little bit harder, but I always like just to pull a little bit just to loosen it up a little bit. You don't want it too tight, because when you wear the garment, if it's too tight it becomes uncomfortable to wear. So now I'm going to go back and just zigzag all the way to my stitch marker, and making sure in the process that all my lines, everything's lining up so it's nice and even. And once you're done with this side, I've already done mine, but get going on your second shoulders. Once we're done with this, we will be doing the same process to the armholes, and then we'll be ready to get started on our sleeves. I have seamed both of my shoulders, and now I am ready to get started on the armholes. And from the bottom I have once again folded my sweater the right way around, so with my right side facing out on both sides. And from the bottom on both sides I have counted 18 rows from not the band but just above the band, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and I have placed my stitch marker on the 18th row, and I might move it one more time and I will count the same way on the other side. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and I will place a stitch marker on both of my fabric, and I will be repeating that on the other side, and this will mark the armhole for our sweater. And I am going to be using yarn and needle once again, and from the band up I am going to flatten lay flat my two sides, and I am going to use my yarn and needle, and using the stitch, the mattress stitch once again, I am going to be seaming all the way up to my stitch marker. And once I'm done with this side, I will be repeating on the other side. Now that I have seamed my shoulders and my sides, we are ready to get started on the sleeves. And I have folded my sweater with the right side facing out. And I have attached the yarn at the armpit of my sweater, if I can find it. Here we go. So I have attached my yarn at the armpit right here, and I am going to grab my yarn and chain one, and we are going to be doing a row of half double crochets all the way around the armholes. So we are going to be doing, for this size, 42 half double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to do my very first half double crochet in the very same stitch as my chain one, where I attach my yarn. And once again, I am going to be marking my first stitch, and I am going to evenly put 42 half double crochets all the way around the armhole. So 42 half double crochets for this size. So I finished my first round around my armhole, and I have 42 half double crochets, and I've arrived at my very first stitch marker. I am going to leave the stitch marker in the stitch as I'm doing a slip stitch. So I am joining my round, and I'm going to chain one and turn my work. So the first round was done on the right side, and now we are going to be working on the wrong side. And the reason that we are going to be slip stitching and turning at every round is so the seam of our sleeve will be straighter. And I am going to yarn over and insert my hook in the very first stitch and do a half double crochet. And I am going to place a stitch marker on my very first stitch. And I have left the stitch marker right here to mark my last stitch, so when I go around, this will be my last stitch. And for me, it's a easier way to find my last stitch. It can be a little bit confusing at times knowing which stitch is your last stitch, so this is my way of finding it. And I am going to continue to go around the armhole with half double crochets, and for the vest we are going to be doing a total of 4 rounds. If you are just doing the vest, after your 4th round you can fasten off, and you will be doing the exact same process for the other side. So 4 rows, 4 rounds on one side, 4 rounds onto the other sleeve. Once you finish with that, then we'll get started on the collar. If you would like longer sleeves, which I have done on this one here, you will be continuing the same process for a total of 32 rows for this size. Once you're done with the 32 rows, do not fasten off, as we will get started on the cuffs. I have finished my 32 rounds of my sleeve, and now we are ready to get started on the cuff. And as you can see here, the cuff is a lot smaller than the actual sleeve, so we are going to be reducing the stitches, and for this size we have 42 stitches and we need to reduce it to 26 stitches. So I am going to switch to my smaller hook, and I am going to finish my round exactly the same way by doing a slip stitch. I'm going to chain one and turn my work, and we are going to be working on the right side of our fabric, and we are going to be reducing by doing single crochet 2 together. And I am going to insert my hook in my first stitch, and I am going to pull up a loop, insert into the next stitch, pull up another loop. Now we have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and I'm going to pull through all 3 loops. And I am going to place my stitch mark on my first stitch once again. I am going to be doing another single crochet 2 together by inserting, pulling a loop, inserting into the next one, pulling another loop, yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops. And in the next stitch I am going to do a regular single crochet, and we are basically going to be repeating this all the way around. So we are going to do a single crochet 2 together, and we are going to be doing that twice followed by a single crochet, and we are going to do this all the way around until we get to the very last 2 stitches. I have arrived at the last 2 stitches of my sleeve, and I am going to do 2 regular single crochet just to finish my round. And I am once again going to slip stitch to my first stitch, and now we are ready to get started on the actual cuff. So I am going to be chaining 11. Once I have 11 chains, I am going to be doing a single crochet in the second chain for my hook. So 1, 2, and I am going to repeat single crochet my remaining chains all the way to the sleeve's edge. So here you should have 10 stitches, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And at the sleeve's edge, I am going to remove my stitch marker, and we are going to skip the very first single crochet of the sleeve's edge and work in the second one. And I am going to do a slip stitch, and I am going to do a second slip stitch, and I am going to turn my work. Now we are going to be working in the back loop only of our stitch, just like we did our cuff, not the cuff, but the band. And here we are going to skip the 2 slip stitches of this the sleeve, so 1, 2, and we are going to work in the next stitch in the back loop only of our cuff. And I am going to do, oops, I am going to do a regular single crochet in the back loop only. And I'm going to continue to do this all the way across the cuff. Now I am going to chain 1 and turn my work, and I'm going to repeat single crochet in the back loop only all the way across back to the sleeve's edge. I like to count my stitches once in a while just to make sure I still have my 10 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Only just to make sure I don't lose any stitches along the way. And at the sleeve's edge, we are going to slip stitch in the next 2 single crochet of the sleeve, and we are going to turn around, and we are going to be repeating these last 2 rows all the way around the sleeve. And once you finish that, then you can go ahead and leave a long tail so we can seam the cuff together. So I am, once again, I'm going to skip my 2 stitches, my 2 slip stitches, and work in a back loop only and do single crochet all the way across. I have fastened off, and I cut the yarn with the long tail so we can seam the cuff. I have turned my sleeve inside out, and I'm ready to seam the cuff, and I am going to seam the cuff with a whip stitch. So I'm going to do the corner a couple of times to make it nice and secure, and I'm going to continue across my cuff, matching the stitches all the way across. Now that I have my 2 sleeves finished, we can get started on the collar. And I have turned my sweater the right side out. So with the right side facing out, I've attached my yarn at the bottom of the right front panel at the very bottom here at the corner, and with my smaller hook we are going to be doing a row of single crochet all along the front panel, around the collar, onto the other side of the sweater. And for the band we are going to place a single crochet in each of the stitches. For the body we will place a single crochet in each row all the way across. On the collar we will do once again a stitch per one single crochet per stitch, and we'll repeat the same process onto the other side. So I am going to place my first single crochet in the same stitch as my yarn, and I am going to go across with my smaller hook. I have finished my row of single crochet and I have fastened off, and I have reattached my yarn on the top right corner this time of my right panel, and we are going to be chaining 21. Now that I have my 21 chains, we are going to work in the second chain from the hook, so 1, 2, and we are going to be doing a half double crochet, and we are going to repeat to half double crochet all the way across the remaining chains. So you should have 20 stitches, and at the collar we are going to skip the first single crochet and we will work a slip stitch in the next 2 single crochets of the collar, and we are going to turn and we are going to skip the 2 slip stitches of the collar, so 1, 2, and work in the back loop only of the next stitch. So, and we will be doing half double crochets in the back loop all the way across, and we will repeat the same process as the cuffs all the way around the collar, and once you're on the other side just fasten off. So I have finished my collar and I have blocked my sweater to measurement, and now we are ready to get started on our zipper, and I have done one side already just to show you how it is going to be working. And we need to get just to get the measurement for starters, I measured from the bottom here of my band all the way up to where my zipper is going to go. And this is how you're going to be sizing the size for your zipper. Once your product is finished and blocked, you will be measuring from the bottom of the band all the way up to your collar, and this will determine what size zipper you need to be getting. And you need to be getting a plastic separating zipper, and separating meaning that it separates at the bottom here, and the plastic so it doesn't catch so easily onto our cardigan. I have gone ahead and attached the zipper by making a casing. So on the wrong side of the sweater I have made a row of half double crochets about half an inch from the end, from the border. And I am going to be showing you how we're going to be doing this on the other side. So we are going to be working on the wrong side, and from the collar we are going to be working at about, we're going to start about half an inch from the collar and half an inch from the edge at about right here. And here I am going to be attaching my yarn, and I am going to leave about 12 inches of tail because we'll be needing this to tidy up the ends once we finish attaching our zipper. And I am going to be chaining one. So I am going to be trying to find stitches all along the edging here at roughly half an inch It doesn't have to be exactly precise, but we're going to try to make it as even as possible. So I am going to be inserting my hook, and this is my 4mm hook. I am going to be inserting just on, it doesn't go through, so it's just going through a stitch, and I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all my stitches. And I am going to be repeating this all the way across, and this will create a casing. So once we finish with this, we will be able to insert our zipper on both sides, and we will be able to sew it in, and we won't have any, it will just tidy it up. So I am going to yarn over and continue to find some stitches, some piece of yarn right here, and I'm going to continue to do this all the way to the bend. And at the bend I will leave, just as we started, about half an inch from the end. So at about, we'll stop at about here, just about half an inch. So I have finished my casing. As you can see here, we're going to be able to insert the other side of the zipper, and I have put my zipper back on because I want to be able to go ahead. Once again, I fastened off with another longer tail here, so we will need that just to clean up the bottom part. And then here I just want to make sure that my zipper is it's the same level as my other one. So I am going to secure it right here with a safety pin, rather, and I'm going to go ahead and just go this way, and then I am going to do the same thing onto the top. And I am going to place another pin at the very top to secure it. So I had, no, this is not, it's just to have the position. And I'm going to remove this, just like so. And I am going to go ahead and use pins, and I am going to place, I can take this one off and put it back on. I'm going to secure my zipper onto my cardigan all the way along the front. Once I am done with the front, I will flip it over and I will be doing this side. I find it easier just to go ahead do one side than to pin the other side. And don't worry too much about the position, as we will be able to adjust where it's going to sit once we start sewing it with the yarn and needle. When you finish doing the front side here, just flip it over and just start by pinning the back side. And I'm going just to roughly just put it together like this, and I'm just going to finish this all the way to the end. So my zipper is secured by pins on both sides of my fabric, and I am going to remove my pin, and I like to use thread that is similar to the color of our sweater, so we won't see it once we use it. And there's a little head piece here at the end of our zipper, so we are going to bypass that and insert our needle through here at the very end, and I'm going to go through the bottom of my sweater just like so. And I like to do the bottom a couple of times to make it nice and secure. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. And once I'm on the other side, I am going to go ahead and grab my casing and put my needle through. We don't need this just yet, so we'll put it aside. And I am going to put my needle and thread through, and I am going to find my next stitch on my casing, and I'm going to insert it into the stitch and into my zipper, and I am going to pull through. I don't want to do this, and on the other side then I can find my stitch and I will put my needles through. I like to do it this way because I can see where my needle is going to be and where my fabric will end up being on the zipper, because remember, you don't want this to be too close to the zipper, the fabric to be too close to the zipper, otherwise the zipper will be catching. So, and as I go along, I will be removing my pins, and it will get easier as you go through. It just takes a little practice to be doing this. And I like to remove some of these so you can really see where your fabric is. So once again, I'm going to find my next stitch, insert my needle where I want my fabric to be on my zipper, pull through to the other side, find the next stitch on the casing and pull through, and I am going to insert my needle into the next stitch, and I'm just going to repeat this all the way across to the end, and I will see you once we finish with the seaming, and we'll get started on cleaning all these ends up on both sides of our zipper. So I have arrived at the end of my zipper, and I have cut the excess here, and I am going to be folding it in a triangle manner, just like this way, and put it inside my casing. And with my yarn and thread, I am going to go into the next stitch and go through both. It's going to be a little hard to get through both of them. Once you're through, you just pull through and you just secure the end of it. And what I like to do is just go through it a few times just to make sure it's nice and secure. I'll go back and grab my casing on the other side and go through both sides. And once you finish doing this and it's secure, you can just fasten off. So now that I have finished attaching my zipper, I am going to be cleaning up the corners, the ends, where that extra piece of yarn that I have left at the beginning at the end. So with my yarn and needle, I am going to flip over, and I am going to be using this yarn just to cover up the ends so it makes it nice and tidy. And just go ahead, there's no real special way, just go ahead and just cover it up as well as you can, just by going back and forth from one side to the other. And once you finish with this, you can just go ahead and fasten off, and we can go ahead and weave in all the ends, and your cardigan is all finished.